I didn't think it was strange at first. The ad was simple. Temporary overnight security needed. 2 weeks. Private residential development. Good pay. Minimal responsibility. Sit in a guard booth and report trespassers. That was it. The company that hired me called themselves Briar Hollow Property Management. I tried looking them up before I accepted, but they didn't have much of an online presence. Just a basic website. No reviews. No listed staff. Nothing alarming. Just empty. Which should have been my first warning. The neighborhood was about 40 minutes outside the city. Deep enough into the countryside that streetlights thinned out and cell service started dropping. When I arrived for my first shift, I understood why they needed someone there. The place was massive. Rows and rows of identical 2-story houses. Fresh paint. New sidewalks. Perfect lawns. But not a single car in any driveway. Not one porch light on. No curtains. No decorations. It looked like a neighborhood that had been built, but never moved into. The main gate was already open when I pulled up. The booth they assigned me was a small glass box with a desk, an old heater, and a binder labeled Night Log. Inside the binder were only 3 entries. All written by the same person. All with the same message. 12:03 a.m. family walking. 12:03 a.m. family walking. 12:03 a.m. family walking. 3 nights in a row. No other details. No description. Just that. I laughed at first. Probably some inside joke between previous guards. Then midnight came. At exactly 12:03 a.m., I saw them. They came from the far end of the street. A man. A woman. And a little girl between them. They were walking down the sidewalk at a steady pace. Not talking. Not holding hands. Just walking side by side. They were dressed like something out of the early 2000s. Casual. Normal. Nothing dramatic. The man wore a dark jacket. The woman had a long coat. The little girl carried something in her hand. A stuffed animal maybe. They passed directly in front of my booth. I nodded politely. The man didn't look at me. The woman didn't blink. The little girl's head turned slightly toward me as they walked past, but her face stayed blank. No smiles. No acknowledgement. Just forward movement. They reached the end of the block. And turned the corner. I waited to see them reappear on the parallel street. They didn't. I got out of the booth and walked to the intersection. Nothing. No footsteps. No doors closing. No cars. Just stillness. The next night, at exactly 12:03 a.m., they came again. Same direction. Same pace. Same silence. Same clothes. This time I stepped outside. Evening, I called. No response. I moved closer as they approached. The man's eyes were open, but unfocused. Like he wasn't seeing me. The woman's face looked tight. Not angry. Not sad. Just stretched. The little girl's stuffed animal dangled loosely from her hand. They passed within 2 feet of me. I could hear their footsteps. But I couldn't hear them breathing. They turned the corner again. Vanished again. That's when I stopped laughing. By night 4, I was waiting for them. 12:03. Not 12:02. Not 12:04. Exactly 12:03. I checked my phone clock. The booth clock. My watch. All synced. The moment it turned 12:03, they appeared. It didn't matter if I was inside. It didn't matter if I stood in the middle of the road. They would come from the far end of the block like they had always been there. One detail changed on night 5. The little girl was no longer holding the stuffed animal. She was holding a red balloon. It trailed behind her slightly as they walked. I swallowed hard. The binder had only ever said family walking. No mention of changes. No updates. On night 6, the man's jacket was missing. He wore only a thin button-down shirt. It was cold that night. I remember because frost had formed on the grass. He didn't seem to notice. On night 7, the woman's coat was gone too. Her arms hung stiff at her sides. And the little girl wasn't holding the balloon anymore. She was holding something else. It looked like a flashlight. But it wasn't on. They passed me again. Closer than ever. And this time, as the girl walked by, the flashlight in her hand flickered once. A brief white pulse. Then darkness. I followed them that night. I stayed about 15 feet behind as they walked. They turned the corner. I turned the corner. They were still there. Still walking. Down the next block. Past empty houses. Past dark windows. The houses all had numbers on them. I noticed something strange. Every house they passed had the same number. Not similar numbers. Not repeating on both sides. Every single house on that street was labeled 17. When I blinked, the numbers returned to normal. I stopped walking. The family didn't. They reached the end of the block. And this time, instead of disappearing, they turned into one of the houses. House number 17. The door opened before they touched it. They stepped inside. The door closed. The porch light flicked on. It was the first light I had seen in that neighborhood. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds before I approached the house. The windows were dark again. No light inside. I tried the door. Locked. I knocked. Nothing. No movement. No sound. I stepped back. And that's when I saw it. Every house on the street now had its porch light on. All at once. Every single one. Then they shut off. Together. I didn't follow them again after that. But they kept coming. Every night. And every night something was missing. The man lost his shoes. The woman's hair came loose. The little girl stopped blinking. Then on the 12th night, they stopped walking. At 12:03 a.m., they appeared as usual. But instead of moving past me, they stopped directly in front of the booth. And stared. All three of them. Unblinking. The little girl slowly raised the flashlight. And turned it on. The beam pointed directly at my face. I couldn't move. The light wasn't bright. But it felt heavy. Like pressure. Like being pinned down. Then she spoke. The first sound I had ever heard from them. Your turn. The flashlight shut off. They turned. And walked away. I didn't sleep that night. I packed my things before midnight. I wasn't staying for whatever your turn meant. At 11:58 p.m., I locked the booth and got in my car. The engine wouldn't start. Battery was fine. Lights came on. But the ignition just clicked. 12:02 a.m. My phone lost service. 12:03. I didn't need to look up to know they were there. But I did anyway. They were standing in front of my car. Not walking this time. Waiting. The man stepped closer. His face looked wrong now. Too pale. Eyes too dark. The woman's mouth hung slightly open. The little girl held the flashlight again. Only this time, the beam wasn't white. It was dim and yellow. Like an old bulb dying. The man opened my car door. I don't remember unlocking it. He gently took my arm. Not violently. Not aggressively. Just firmly. The woman opened the back seat. The little girl stepped aside. I tried to pull away. I couldn't. My legs felt disconnected. They guided me toward the sidewalk. Toward the path they always walked. The neighborhood looked different now. The houses weren't empty anymore. There were silhouettes in the windows. Watching. Every house. Every window. Figures standing perfectly still behind the glass. The man released my arm. The woman stepped beside me. The little girl stood on my other side. Then they started walking. And I walked with them. At exactly 12:03 a.m. Down the sidewalk. Past the booth. Past my car. Toward the corner. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. When we reached the end of the block, we didn't turn into house 17. We kept walking. Down the next street. Past new houses. Identical ones. Perfect lawns. Dark windows. We stopped in front of one. The door opened. Inside was the booth. My booth. With someone sitting in it. A new guard. Looking confused. Holding the binder. He flipped it open. And wrote something. 12:03 a.m. family walking. I tried to scream. But I couldn't feel my mouth. The little girl handed me the flashlight. It felt cold in my hand. Heavy. Permanent. The door closed behind us. And at 12:04 a.m., the porch light shut off. Now, every night, we walk. Man. Woman. Little girl. And me. At exactly 12:03. If you ever take a temporary security job in a brand new neighborhood that no one lives in, check the binder. If it only says family walking, don't stay past midnight. Because once they stop walking, it becomes your turn.